but I do want to tell you that. So, thank you. I'm sorry? Not working.
Yeah, all right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm sure you can hear me. A little louder. It's going to be, we have a couple of guests who are kind of testing us out a bit here, see how we do. I'd like to introduce Carol Arnold. You want to raise your hand there? And Dave Marshak. And they expressed some interest, but want to see kind of how we do things here, see if this is worth their time. What I'd like to do first is I'd like to add one agenda item, which, and I'll put that after Sherry's, and that is Nancy Najelski is going to talk about a couple of things. I'll let her tell you what. And are there any other additions to the agenda? All right. Well, what we'd like to do is to start, first of all, by, I've invited Tom and Helen Spiro to come again, and this time we've ironed out the technology, and so Tom will talk about his book, or their book, for Tom and Helen.
Thank you, Bill. So this is a little advertisement. Hold it down. I'll put it here in my lap. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so in August, we're told, this will appear from McFarland Press, Earthwise, A Guide to Today's Environmental Issues, by Helen and me, with Alexandra Solotova, who is can you all hear? Who's a longtime research associate and took an interest in this book and is talented in graphics and illustrations. So she did all the graphs and illustrations. Great contribution. So this tells you about the book, and it has some endorsements from Bill McKibben and Dennis Hayes, which we're very pleased about. And so I will quickly run through the contents. That's a flyer which is available. We can print it out for you. Oh, what happened?
Yeah, how do you, mind if I mess around with it?
Yeah.
Technology is great until it isn't.
Right. I didn't know anything about this.
There you go.
Not showing.
There you go. And then wherever you had that, this is the flyer?
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
The book actually grew out of a college textbook that I wrote after teaching a course at Princeton for many years on chemistry of the environment. But it's not a textbook. It's an attempt to introduce ordinary people to environmental issues. And Helen was an essential co-author because I would write out science descriptions as clearly as I could, and she would redline everything and say, do it again, and take out all the science. So, just to give you a flavor, here's the table of contents. There are 11 chapters on various issues. The climate change is the first one. The first two chapters we discuss whether the Earth is warming and what the consequences are. Energy sources, both fossil fuel and renewables, and using energy wisely. Efficiency and conservation is covered. Plastics have their own little chapter. Nancy will be pleased. And then we get into air pollution, which is mostly about tiny particles, most of it from fossil fuels, actually. Clean water for a thirsty world. We discuss water supply and how to keep it clean. And then toxic substances, biodiversity, food, and sustainability. So all of that's covered in fairly brief chapters, as you can imagine. These are big topics. And then, just to give you a flavor of what in one of these chapters, we'll look at the food chapter, which covers, you can't see this very well. Oh, good. Thank you. So how will 10 billion people be fed? 10 billion is the likely plateau of world population. It's up to 8 billion now. It's still going up, although birth rates are falling everywhere. So it'll probably stabilize, but not before it gets to 10 billion. There's a lot of people. And is there enough food for 10 billion people? We talk about that. We talk about the role of fertilizers, good and bad. We talk about pesticides. We talk about the Green Revolution, which saved a lot of people from starvation in the third world, but had its own downsides. And we talk about meat. We talk about soil regeneration, a whole lot of topics related to food and the sustainable production. And then we get into, finally, new things like urban farms, not so new, but they're spreading, and also fake meats and meat grown from cell culture, things of that sort. The role of technology in precision agriculture. There are a whole lot of things happening, some of which are good and some of which are bad. So we talk about all of that and try and end on a hopeful note. And each of the chapters goes through a variety of relevant topics and the downsides and the upsides of human intervention, what people are doing about it. So we try and keep pessimism out of the book, hard as that is to do sometimes. So it's supposed to be out in August. We hope it will be, although we haven't seen the page proofs yet. I don't know why the holdup. Helen is afraid that it's going to be trashed because of current political climate. My opinion is that the best thing that could happen is for this book to be banned. That would get a lot of readers. So stay tuned. I promised the Science Committee that once the book is actually out, we'd have a book talk about it. And we hope you'll all come. Any questions we'll be happy to tackle.
It occurs to me that there are lots of things in here, and we probably I want to talk more with Tom to see how we might be able to take one of these topics and maybe go into a little with all of you in a meeting, maybe outside of the agenda or our monthly meeting, or maybe not. But I think that just listening to him talk about just the food issues, there's a lot that we can talk about there. So I'll work with Tom, and we'll see what's possible and to what degree you're interested. So with that, but I didn't see any questions. Are there any questions for Tom? Yes, Sherry.
I was going to congratulate them in finally getting it to the press. And I can read it if it's banned, because there we go. So I'll have to put a picture of your book on here when I take it, because I always get comments on this bag whenever I'm anywhere, and they're always favorable, believe it or not. So, but I might, when I talk about World Oceans Day, maybe because it sort of ties in part of it, so maybe you can be at the table part of the time and have a sample about the book or some information about it, and we can get it in.
Wait, sorry, which table?
World Oceans
A
Day,
table.
you'll find
Oh,
out.
A I see.
Whatever tables I have.
All right.
I'm on. Am I on? Okay. So I was reading this morning that the Secretary of Agriculture, Ms. Rollins, said that something to the effect that we don't have to do that, climate change crap anymore. And so I think you should send her a copy, a proof, and that might get the whole band going.
That's a good idea. Bring it to their attention.
You have to remember, we're both born outside this country, so we have to be careful.
We could hide you, like in basement 4.
On that note, we'll move on, but I think there's just a lot here, and we need to keep thinking about how we can bring that out to all of us. And so I'd like now to ask Sean to talk about progress in decarbonization.
During our last meeting, I shared that we were about to kick off a project that involved our building controls, our building automation controls, and just wanted to give an update in regards to the progress we've made there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it should work. You may recall the graphics that I was showing last time, and it looked similar to this, and to be honest, the graphics haven't really changed too much. It's still conveying the same data, but what's important is how that data has changed, and how there's been a big improvement in terms of how our equipment's being operated. There's a lot of information on this screen here, but what is important to note is there's some rather large equipment that's running much differently than it has since the North Tower was constructed. And in short, it's running much, much more efficiently than it ever has. This entire time, for example, this air handling unit that we're looking at on the screen is the main air handler for the North Tower. It's a very big, it would almost fill this room. And there's two really large fans. And one of the fans, the one I'm pointing at here, was running at full speed, 24/7. And that was consuming about the same amount of power that an electric vehicle would take to charge, about 11 kilowatts, just to put it into perspective. And that's a lot of power. Now that it's running at half speed, 24/7, not full speed, but half speed, it's using about 75% less power. And so instead of 11 kilowatts, it's using 3 kilowatts. And this energy consumption is very easy for me to find, and so I can see the progress we're making. And that's just one example of a big energy savings, because we're talking about, this graphic doesn't put it into perspective, but it's a very large piece of equipment. The fan motor, the spinning bit is about as big as me. It's huge. It's a 20 horsepower motor that was running at full speed all day long, 24/7. And so running it at half speed is not using half the power, it's using 75% less power. So it's a big savings. And beyond that, we've also upgraded another North Tower piece of infrastructure that we call our condensing water system. And I would want to draw your attention to these pumps here, and you'll see that currently only one of the two pumps is running. Again, until this project happened, both pumps were running 24/7. And another important detail is not only were they both running 24/7, one pump was running slower than the other. And that may not be obvious. It wasn't obvious to me until this project, but when you have two pumps running at different speeds, but they're serving the same pipe, the pump that's running at a slower speed is effectively fighting the pump that's running at a higher speed. It's slowing that flow down, and so it'd be better just to run one pump instead of two. And that's typically what we would have in the industry. We would have two pumps for redundancy purposes, not for meeting extra demand or increasing performance. And so what we've done is allow only one pump to run, and which is going to increase its lifespan. It uses a lot less power yet again. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it would be another, half the power that it used to use. We're using half of that now. And these are very high consuming energy pieces of equipment. And so these pumps used to run at about half speed, 50%, both of them. We've got one running at 25% right now. And so it's a big drop in consumption. And I'm not done yet with these two systems. You can see how there's still some things that are not showing data. So there's some things to follow up on in terms of just addressing the last remaining items, but there's still some opportunity to improve the performance and tune the system, which is what this project is bringing to the surface. And so the last development I will want to share is the flow. Not only were we running both pumps at the same time, we were asking them to flow an excessive amount of water, more than necessary. And so we've reduced that by about more than half of, typically you run these pumps to flow in a certain window, and we were operating at the max of that window, and we're now operating closer to the lower end of that the flow rate. Without boring you with a bunch of details and technical stuff, we're not flowing any more than we need to flow. Whereas before, I think the logic was, well, let's just flow as much as it can possibly flow, and so it's performing as best as we possibly can perform, even if that additional performance is just a couple percent, nothing that anyone would notice. Let's just go ahead and do it, so that they don't call us or something. I'm not entirely sure what the logic was. It definitely, yeah, there probably wasn't very much logic, and a lot of what is being brought to the surface through this project is raising that question: why was it done this way? Why have we been operating this equipment in this way? Was the building ever commissioned? I luckily have been here long enough to know that this is the way we've been operating it ever since the building was constructed, and there is no good reason why it's been operated this way.
Would you describe what commission means?
Yeah, so Mr. Roach was just asking what commissioning means. And so, when you have a building constructed, it has to go through a commissioning process to make sure that things are not only operating, but that they're operating, to spec, and that they're operating in an efficient manner. And there's different degrees of commissioning. Some can be very methodical. Others can be taking, what's that? Pro forma, yeah. Just taking a lot of shortcuts. And I think this reinforces why it's really important to have someone in my position that can ensure that the commissioning process happens the way we need it to happen, to avoid this type of result, because it's pretty outrageous. I mean, just what we're finding, what's being brought to the surface. I'm just surprised that it had been left to operate this way. We definitely don't want that result with our new tower. So it's a very, very eye-opening project, and there's a lot more to come. If you look at this main homepage, I have just talked about this condensing water system right here on the left. I talked about that, and I talked about our AHU1. As you can see, there's a lot of other systems, and they are all responsible for the majority of our, electrical and utility usage. And so there's a lot more opportunity, and I'm just trying to attack each one of these, starting with the lowest hanging fruit first. And so, yeah, I hope to have more developments this year. Yeah, I'm still evaluating what the next system will be that I attack next, but the steam system is likely going to be that system. And that's what we're looking at here. I won't spend too much time, I won't spend any time talking about that, because that's going to take a lot more. Yeah, I'll come back to that, but there's a huge opportunity there as well to save some more energy. Beyond building automation control developments, we're also kicking off a project to replace this chiller that's inside our university garage that I've been talking about for a long time. And it's finally, yeah, it's very noisy, and it's very inefficient. And in the matter of weeks from now, that's going to be upgraded to a water source chiller, which is going to be a night and day difference in terms of efficiency and noise. That's coming. And then as also on our dining room roof, there is going to be a natural gas-fired HVAC unit that serves our kitchen that's going to be electrified because it's currently burning natural gas for heating. It's going to be electrified to become a heat pump. And I'm really excited about that one, because it was, for a moment there, sounding like it may not be able to happen. And so we were able to work with Eli, and, you know, between us talking through how there's a lot of activity happening on this roof. We've got a crane already involved in this project. Let's take advantage of that crane that's extremely expensive and knock out this other project while we're there. We don't want to miss that opportunity. And so luckily I was able to convince him, it sounds like. And so, yeah, I had a lot of help. And so, assuming that all goes to plan, then I'll be able to apply half of the funds I received from a grant that we were awarded last year. I'll be able to apply $125,000 towards that project that the city is effectively going to pay for. So, really happy about that. Beyond that, I think those are the two main things I wanted to share. And does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
This isn't a question, but I'm, as usual, just blown away by what we're hearing here. I think this is so thrilling. It is one of the several things that we do where the rubber really meets the road. We're not just talking about these things, but thanks to you, we're seeing how this place where we live and where we're committed to can be improved in such huge ways. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that I can, you know, share some other data that reinforces what I'm talking about here, because I know I'm not really able to show this huge savings, but our utility bills certainly will. And I'm tracking that on a monthly basis. And so hopefully on our next meeting or a couple meetings from now, we'll be able to see the impact. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was all that you've talked about, or was it all covered by a grant from the city? Is that what you said?
No, only the decarbonization projects that involve, the natural gas-fired unit that I was talking about that serves the kitchen that we're going to electrify. That one involves decarbonization, and that's where we're going to get a grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the first two that you talked about, those were covered by Horizon House.
They were. These were projects that I've been wanting to kick off and needing to kick off. You know, for transparency, these building automation controls, similar to other technology, they become obsolete. They reach a point of no longer being supported, and so then we're forced to upgrade. Mm-hmm. And so we're right at that point where, with the West Tower coming, we want this to be well positioned so that when the West Tower comes online, it's ready to go. Oh yeah.
Nancy, you have a comment? A question? Go ahead.
You want to go for?
Most of us don't live in the North Tower, so I guess my question is more for those of us who would live in the North Tower. First of all, Sean, where are these pieces of equipment? Where do they reside in the North Tower?
They would reside in our mechanical space. So the AHU1 would be down on B4, and the condensing water system is all over, to be honest. It's split between the roof and B4.
And on that graph that you showed, what was it, AHUI?
AHU1.
Yeah, where it shows the hall temperatures, does that represent a set point or a recording point?
What this is it's not implemented yet, but this is for comfort purposes based on feedback I've received from residents in the Anderson Hall, saying that it's too cold. Important, good question, because part of this is not only to increase energy efficiency, it's also to boost comfort, make things more comfortable. And so the intent of what we're looking at here, where it says hall, with some question marks, they didn't know if it's Anderson Hall or Performance Hall, but what it's tracking is the
well-
temperatures. What it's tracking is the temperatures of the 3 spaces, and based on the space temperature, it may, if I determine that this is a good direction to go, I, again, haven't got there yet, it will drive how this unit operates, so that it doesn't start cooling off this space prematurely, so that it enhances comfort. You know, and I think it's really important to also include that in an event space, eventually cooling is essential. And you will need, in a event that has a large turnout, in a room, especially in an event space with lower ceilings, you will want to anticipate bringing some warmer clothes, because it will reach a point where it must go into cooling, otherwise the person that's hosting the event may start sweating, you know, and we just want to make sure everyone's comfortable. And so that was the intent here, is to allow this main unit to operate based on demand, not based on what my team or myself thinks it should be doing at that current point in time. It does it based on what it sees the need, you know. It's looking at these spaces and it says, oh wow, it's getting uncontrollably warm in there. I need to reduce the temperature, and yeah, and so rather than, this was the most important space that this unit serves. It serves floors 3 through B4, but out of those 7 floors, this space is the most critical.
So does that mean that this is not, this little schematic here is not particularly for the North Tower, but it's for other parts of the building too?
This is only for the North Tower, and it serves.
I guess I never thought of Anderson Hall as the North Tower, since we're not at the elevators. Okay,
Yep. Hope that answers your question.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this topic can go on for a while. I always, what I say on that point is I base it on, it's based on how the space temperature is trending, and so it's not trying to maintain any specific temperature really. But if it sees the trend going up 5 degrees every 10 minutes, then it's like, oh, I need to introduce some cooling to get it to stop climbing, and so that's kind of the intent of this. What we call sequence of operations is to drive that set point based on the room temperature, and so it's a moving target. Feedback from the occupants, from staff and residents. Yeah, yeah. Can I just share one last project that I thought of? I'm sorry. Oh, and you have one? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, to Ruth's point about this being a Horizon House funded project, it's a good example of how an investment up front can save money downstream from utility bills. Are you tracking that too? What the payback is for these kinds of investments?
It can be, we can extrapolate that data, but that's the purpose of the benchmarking activity that I've been doing for several years now, using our electric bill, gas bill, steam bill, so that we can see how these changes influence our consumption.
Because that's an important factor for the administration to think about budgeting.
Yeah.
And I must say that as a last point, that it seems to me not only are we saving energy and doing things more efficiently, but we're getting the benefit of your increased passion for this, which I think is equally important, that you're really learning a lot and
Yeah.
putting yourself into this.
Not only are I might point out that Erica has recognized what Sean is doing and has asked him to lead a team. If you recall, she did talk about sustainability as an area that they really wanted to work more on. And so she's asked Sean to lead a team to really work on that broader issue over time, beginning in the fall. So she recognizes who she has here.
Thanks all. Yeah, I really appreciate the recognition. I'm just very driven off of efficiency, and just I get a lot of satisfaction finding ways to make things more efficient, whether it's a mechanical system, a process, or whatever. And so, yeah, thank you for the recognition. The last thing I just wanted to share before I forget was an EV charger project that we're kicking off. Again, that is related to a grant I received that I was awarded for $200,000 to install 20 level 2 car chargers. And so I'm currently in conversations with some electrical contractors to kick that project off. And we're looking at 12 to 16 chargers that go into the North Tower garage on B3, and then the remaining 4 to 8 chargers going in the university garage. The exciting part of this project, beyond just getting some chargers, is that I'm hoping that we can integrate some battery and solar. And so that's, as I've been talking a long time, I've kind of envisioned a fleet of EVs, whether they're residents or car share or staff, that could be supported by a solar battery installation in our North Tower. It'll be a relatively small system, but I mean, if you take into consideration how much we're driving in this community, I drive 10 miles each way. I use hardly any energy. It's an EV I drive, so I know how much energy that takes. You multiply that by 20 vehicles, and this project could support that amount of EVs off the sun for the majority of the year. And so I'm hoping that battery and solar prove to be feasible, because there's a lot of obstacles to make that happen. But I do have some ideas there to make it feasible, and so hopefully I'll have some positive developments there to share for my next meeting, because we are kind of under a time crunch, somewhat. Yeah, well, to that point, these funds are locked in. There's not the president can't touch them, as far as I've been told. So, yeah, no, I understand. Department of Commerce has shared with me that they have no concerns there about these funds disappearing. But having said that, they do intend all these projects to be completed by a certain time, and that time is rapidly approaching. So anyway, that project hopefully will be completed by September, October is what we're currently projecting. And so, yeah, that's all I had. Thank you all.
There's another, well, I'll get to this later in terms of a study that's been completed, which will kind of inform some of his work further going into the fall and winter, and so we'll continue to follow that. Thanks, Sean. Jean, do you want to tell us about coming programs?
Start by thanking you all who were here last night, and to say that Alan's program.
No, yeah.
Okay. Alan's talk, it was the split screen moment. It will be repeated on HHTV on the 5th of June, June 5, at 7:30 p.m., which is unusual to get an evening time for that. Usually we have afternoon times.
I'd like to point out that it was extraordinary piece, And for those of you who couldn't make it last night, you should see it on the 5th, because it's worth seeing, worth your time.
Okay, then on June 17th should be our normal third Wednesday, but instead we're going to have two different programs a week before that on June 10th. At 10 in the morning on June 10th, thanks to Nancy Najenski, Laura Clinch will be here from Recology. You'll remember that Recology was supposed to come together with the composting people with Cedar Grove during Earth Week, and they didn't show up. So it's probably better to have the full program available for one of those agencies, and this one will be Recology. So thank you, Nancy. That will be Laura Clinch from Recology coming to speak, and it will be in 2 rooms of this Anderson Hall. That's the forum and the social room, which matches what we expect to come. But if you want to bring an awful lot more people and make us too crowded, we accept that too. The evening of the 10th of June, Linda Mapes, the Seattle Times environmental reporter, will be here. She recently has published a book, Trees, about both the trees in the Northwest and others elsewhere. And this will be co-sponsored between ourselves and I think it's the Public Affairs Committee. It's whatever the group is that Sam Sperry and Joel Connolly have founded. On the 15th of July, at 7:30 in the evening, I've got Aaron Stroming, who's a Special Assistant Director for Federal Affairs of the Puget Sound Partnership. Puget Sound Partnership is the group, that's a state agency that includes people who have connected to each of the kinds of things that the state needs to do to take care of Puget Sound, whether it's the borders being not stopped by bulkheads, but allowing tide to come and go, whether it's safety questions, a question of whether there should be a tugboat guiding the ships in, all these kinds of things. His particular job, Aaron's job, is he's the Washington State Director of Federal Affairs, which means he connects all these state interests with the relevant people in the federal government. Now, it's happened that most of the people that he used to deal with who were civil servants are no longer there. But he says it's very important that they are dealing with the staff and members themselves of the Senate, our senators, and some other federal government employees, senators and representatives, but also the representatives of all of the districts that have anything to do with Puget Sound, including, I think, the 3rd. May not have any waterfront on Puget Sound, but it's got rivers that flow into Puget Sound. And that's as far as I have anybody signed up. Anybody's got more interest or suggestions? Oh, I've got a full disclosure. This sounds like nepotism, but this is another relative of mine. This is my grandson, who's been with the Puget Sound Agency for 4 or 5 years. Anyhow.
On that note, we need to be moving along here. Sherry, would you talk about Ocean Day, please?
Okay, World Ocean Day happens to be June 8th. We're going to celebrate it here on June 9th because I figured a Sunday was a day no one would pay any attention to us. which they may not on Monday, but we'll do it again the same way we did it last year, and I think the year before, is we will do it in the Fireside Lounge from 10 until 2. I will, I'm looking for people around here. Carol has volunteered with the Twisted Arm, and I didn't even have to twist it very hard, to bring her Safe Suds display, which is an important part for the ocean, because we live about 10 blocks from the ocean. If you think of, you've got to remember Puget Sound is part of the ocean. And Bonnie will bring some information on plastics. So we've got those going. And Gloria has volunteered to bring some underwater photography from when she was diving, and she will be there also. And Gloria discovered somebody that's actually associated with the aquarium. I'll have to find out how or where, and if she's willing, maybe we'll have her come too, on plastics and the issue of plastics. Plastics is still the biggest waste in the aquarium. It's not bad in the aquarium, but in the ocean. So it is a big problem. It has been forever. Back in the 90s, I was working with microplastics and the problem they were so that gives you an idea how long that we've known that microplastics were in the ocean and the problems of it. But Puget Sound was too clean for the EPA at that time compared to the East Coast. So I said, okay, we'll find out. We'll get dirtier, guaranteed, just like everybody else. So I'm looking for people to help. Thanks to Mary Ann, who's taken over our little environmental thing. We'll get a little bookshelf about the ocean like we did for, like she did for Earth Week, or Earth Month. We'll just put it up for a shorter period of time, but with some ocean books. And I looked, and people were looking at them because I could tell by the order, and some of them had disappeared. I mean, they came back again, luckily, but they were gone for a while. So that works out well. I'm always looking for volunteers to help. I'm going to recruit some of my aquarium friends, and I will get some biofacts from the aquarium for it. So it's low-key, and we will show some short little tiny videos down in the far end of the Fireside Lounge, closer to the windows, that a lot of people watch. They sit there and watch them, even if they've seen them before. So a lot of them are aquarium ones. Some are some other ones that I've found somewhere else, and so it works. Some were art ones that, there's a couple of art ones that Brian Carr found about plastics in the water, and they were pretty strong ones also. So that's it. And find me, and I will recruit you for that day.
Well, is it possible you could send a sheet around for people to agree to, sign up? Yeah, we still have a little time here.
Yeah? Oh, gee, thanks. Go ahead. Carol
Okay,
just...
and while that's going on, we ought to move along.
Yeah, I have to move along, too.
And since you mentioned Mary Ann, I will ask her to do her update before Nancy. So you go ahead, Mary Ann.
Yes. Okay, I'll make this brief. I, at Sherry's request, took over on the library shelf, and we
Thank
did
you.
put up a little display of books for Earth Month, which we've sort of recouped. And I've made a couple of additions to the environment shelf. I've put a notebook where I print out on paper, but put Bill's legislative reports. So if you want to just look at a compilation of them together, they're in that little notebook. I've been on a personal reading kick of books by urban naturalists, particularly people in Seattle. And so I've put a couple of those books there. One, Nature Obscura, a city's hidden natural world, about Seattle and mostly small things in Seattle, by Kelly Brenner. And then Leanda Lynn Haupt, who's been getting quite a bit of national attention. I put her book, Crow Planet, which is really a wonderful book about urban birds, crows in particular. And though it's not so much the city, I also put Mozart's Starling, which is just a charming book about starlings. And there is some interest in the Neighborhoods Committee, possibly co-sponsored by this, in having one or both of these individuals give a talk. So if anybody has ever heard them speak and knows if they're any good as a speaker, just let me know.
Well,
And-
we're always looking for ways that we can work with other committees, so that's
Yeah.
something we should we can talk on a little further in terms of with the Neighborhoods
And
Committee.
I do think that's it.
Well, thank you, Mary Ann. Any questions for her? Thank you for stepping forward to do that. Nancy?
Just a quick note, one of the residents asked me to report to this committee that they said the signs in the waste recycle rooms are too small, they can't read them. So, that's
Well,
all.
that is something that we are going to be working on with the site group to see what other ways we can deal with that issue.
But here's what I really wanted to talk about. So Carol's list of products that she had, you know, the better ones to use. Karen Fern had this great idea, and since I'm her personal assistant, I decided I would do the work and bring it to the committee on her behalf. But her idea was, and it was really, I thought, quite fabulous, is these are great suggestions, but if residents can't easily get these products, what good does it do? So her suggestion was, I want to call it Karen's Corner, but but instead I'm going to call it maybe the Sustainable Market, where, how's that? Is that okay? Where we would provide these products for people to purchase, and they'd be here at Horizon House. Erica suggested maybe Monday Market. Monday Market is really would prefer the admin take over this. So I approached Jeff about it, about putting them in the bistro on a shelf. And I'm supposed to bring the products to him or show him pictures of it. And he's seriously considering it, where it would just be part of the grocery list. And he and I were looking over whether they would all fit on, you know, one of the shelves. And the items, here was the list of possible items. It might need to be less than this. Wool dryer balls to replace any dryer sheets, which are horrible for the environment. Blue Land, fragrance-free, has to be fragrance-free, dishwater tablets. 7th generation free and clear dishwater powder, which can easily be gotten at any grocery store, but, you know, we could provide it. Blue Land free and clear laundry tablets, Dirty Labs fragrance-free liquid laundry detergent. And one of the ones that you had, Carol, was Meloria's laundry powder, unscented. Yeah, it's. Colt, I don't know. Is it on the safer products list of the government? Okay, we can look at, anyway, I guess the decision is we need to, one, decide if this is a good thing for the committee, and then I would need to talk to Jeff about whether he's willing to take this on, whether we would need to do a GEM grant for seed money to start it, whether Jeff would.
We would see how much money you need, and it's possible we could use existing resources.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of, it's possible that Jeff just may take it on. I'm still talking to him. One of the other ideas I had is possibly is having a glass spray bottle and put it, the recipe for the just non-toxic cleaning products. Right, exactly. Where I was thinking attaching the recipe to it. Yeah. So part of it, I need to still talk to Jeff about how much space, and if there's any thoughts you guys have about if we just would offer one of each product or two of each for options, I don't know. So anyway, it's just up to the committee. But How do you think? What do you think of Karen's idea?
Hey,
I thought it was a fabulous idea.
well, congratulations to both of you, and to Carol also for doing the research. And it just shows what we can do as a committee when we get our heads together. And, you know, let's talk about finances, and I can talk with Jeff also to see what his issues might be there and how we might support it.
Well, where I am with Jeff right now is I told him I was first going to bring this to the committee. I have, and if you guys are okay.
Well, why don't we?
Next step is I'm supposed to, and I have it all ready for Jeff, just to give him a list of what the products are and the pictures and all that.
How about
So-
a vote?
A vote? Sure, great.
How many would like to support this? All right.
Bob? Are you a no?
Bob is a maybe. So, given that what I saw, I didn't really count, it just looked like everybody, so we'll take it from there. Does anyone have a concern about it, that we're?
This is not a concern, but obviously this is an ongoing project for people to, it takes some people in the committee. I could be one of them. Sorry. I was just saying, we can't pretend that. This wouldn't be an ongoing responsibility for a few of us on the committee. So that's not a concern, and I would be happy to be one of those people, but I don't want to be the only one. Woo!
Well, we'll see how that goes. On that note, I don't see Bonnie here. I had invited Barbara Brown to be she had some thoughts in terms of paper bag reuse, but she's not here. So, you know, the thought that we had is that we would look at food banks as a potential user of our bags. Unfortunately, the food bank I was thinking of, which is the Salvation Army, just down the street, which would be convenient to us, no longer has the food bank there. It's a reflection, I think, of cutting in funds. And so we're going to have to find another option. But that remains, I think, a potential. We're kind of losing time here, so I would like to have Barbara as a part of a conversation on this, and so we'll reschedule that. In the meantime, do a little research on other food banks that might be potential recipients. With that, I would like to go and just do the chair report. Would take a few minutes, even though it's a bit after 3. The update on the one other piece that I've just learned today. Chef Steve came up to me after lunch and said, I have some bittersweet news. He will be leaving Horizon House. His wife has got a position in Southern California, which is where he's from. And so he'll be leaving in June. He's reluctant to leave because he likes it here. He felt he'd really made an impact. But, you know, this is a potential of he would be going back home, and that's quite attractive to him. So he will be leaving, and they're already in interviews for a replacement. With that news, bittersweet though it is, yes. Yes. Yeah, he's been replaced. They had 40 different people applying for that job. So this place is within Morrison. So this is an attractive place. And Ben is over on the east side, running a kitchen and loving it. So it's not, I mean, he was here from 2014, so it was really time to move on, I think. In terms of the moving on to the car share program, I was a part of a staff meeting yesterday where to pursue that issue further, and got some troubling news, and that is that due to insurance, that has been the problem, insuring the car and so forth, and they unfortunately have established 85 as the top age that someone can operate a car sharing car. And since the average age here is 88, yes, the average. Now, that's everybody, of course, and but it takes a huge number of people. I'm a good example of one. I have a year left to operate a car share. But I think there are a lot of other people like me, and that will be a challenge. But we are moving ahead with it will be they're contracting with an outside vendor, a co-op. It's an interesting organization that has an interesting story in and of itself. We can get into that later. And the car that they are considering is Ionig, which is a Korean vehicle that, and I think it's well regarded, just not a Tesla. That's where they were going, and we talked them out of that.
Bill,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
If you have a car sharing situation where the upper age limit is
85.
85, if you have a relative who's willing to take you someplace, I have a grandson here who's 25.
Right.
Could he come in and rent the car?
It's a great question, and we'll take that forward.
I think it has to be somebody who's related to one of the residents here, but still.
We'll look at that. We need all of the flexibility we can figure out to make this thing work. I mean, some have talked about self-drive cars, and that might be something to consider over time. But right now, that is kind of where we are. Yes.
Yes, I'm all pro if we can get Waymo in here. I think that would be fabulous, but I know that's in the future. Is there going to be a minimum usage they're going to look for?
Well, they want to be able to support at least one vehicle.
What do they consider supporting in
Well,
terms of usage?
Well, they will limit, the limit will be 4 hours per use, up to. We do not have a price yet, and that's one of the problems, to see is this going to be affordable or not. So it's an ongoing thing, but I'm not sure I'm getting what your question is. Why don't you?
I'm wondering if they're going to, the company to come in here would want a minimum number of usage before they would keep the car here. If they figure it wouldn't be worth it financially to have a car here if it wasn't used X amount of time.
That's a Horizon House decision, not,
Okay.
they're signing a contract to operate here. And that'll be a decision of Horizon House to see. That's why they're starting with one car. I argued for two for a lot of reasons. Because I think it is attractive, but when you're talking about 85 as the top limit, that does really reduce the number of people who can use it.
I think with the West Tower, though, that would really be a big deal, a big
Well,
selling.
that's always been my argument. And I've gotten finally Brian to see the parking issue, which he has mentioned now. Now he has it in his head. It took us a little time, like 2 years, but we got there. And then finally, and this is something I'm going to be getting the smaller sustainability group on. We've had a carbon reduction feasibility study done by Methuen and Cezanne. It's a very interesting study, and it looks at 9, and actually Sean talked about a couple of the projects, but there are 9 in all. And it comes was the idea of trying to get into what are the savings in each one of these projects. The financing is an issue. One of the things he really didn't get into much was the local, every grant that we get requires local match. And that's always been where the shortfall is. And so we have to do the work for each one of these to see what our savings is and so forth, what's the priority. And we're just beginning to look at that. And it's a very interesting report. I want to have the smaller group look at it first, and then I'll share it with all of you. But there are 9 projects. He's mentioned 2 of them here in his presentation. But there are 7 others, and a couple of really interesting ones. Well, they're all interesting. But my point is, things are moving, and Erica's appointment of him to run a group, a team, is a big step. It's something that he needs help, and this is, I think, a promising direction we're taking this, but it'll take time. So those are the 2 points I want. Yes, David.
The way that CarShare operate, what I've seen, I haven't been a member, but I've known friends who have, is that you have a minimum payment. It's the way that we operate the food service here. There's a minimum payment that if you want to participate, you pay that amount.
There will be a membership fee.
Right, and so that's what guarantees the initial finance.
Well,
so then it becomes.
I mean,
down to a
this is
question.
not like Zipcar, which I'm a part of.
Right, but it's what guarantees the amount of financing to get it going.
Well, that's the Horizon House, which is taking this on.
Right, but it would be dependent on people making a commitment to wanting to do that.
That's what we're hoping. It'll take a year to. There's a willingness because of the huge need of parking here. There is a willingness to try this and give it time, and it's too early yet until we see what the fee is going to be, to see how sustainable it will be. It's not by any means a guarantee, but at least there was a commitment to try it for at least a year. I mean, we've had the budget. It's been carried in the budget for the last 2 years, while they've been trying to work this out. So the intention has been there. Okay? Any other questions? We will be here for the rest of the year, 2 o'clock, except in July and October, where we'll be moved. This has to do with some conflict that we had last time. But when I asked all of you, I think 2 o'clock was, in most cases, it was actually a better time. So we'll be going from 2. We We have it till 2:30 or 3:30, but we try to get done in an hour. We're a little over that now. With that said, we'll see you in another month. With that, thanks for coming.